Alrighty, so before we get into a meditation, like the formal practice of meditation, and we'll do it informally, let's just start by stretching out just a little bit. So if you are sitting up, I would like you to interlace your hands behind your back or at your low back, and you press your arms together, press your shoulder blades together behind you, and let your head fall back if it's comfortable for your neck. Move your shoulders back. What you want to do is you want to get a feel of almost like your chest being pulled out from in between your shoulder heads. And take a giant exhale, just a big sigh. You're going to take that one more time. Interlacing your fingers behind you. Press your arms toward each other. Press your shoulder blades toward each other. Like the bottom tips of your shoulder blades, squeeze them toward each other into your middle back. And if you can, press your arms away from your back, away from your back side. And just again, feel that stretch. Your chest is being lifted up and out. Your head can go back. And then squeeze, 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 squeeze. Or shoulder blades squeeze together. Arm muscles, triceps, forearms, all presses inward. As if you were squeezing a beach ball behind you with your arms. And drop your arms, drop your shoulders down. Just take some neck rolls. One side and then the other. Making sure to take your neck and your head in the opposite direction. And then if you can, just take your hands behind your head, interlacing your fingers, and just press chin towards your chest. Push the back of your head into your palms. And it's just a tiny movement, but it gives the right amount of space. Take a long breath in and empty that out. Just let all that exhale trickle out. Push the back of your head into your palms again. And then lift your chin up toward the ceiling. And I would just take your fingers, the 4 fingers on both hands, and bring them right to the base of your neck. Just sort of cradle your palms gently around the sides of your neck and throat. And so you're very supported while you lean back. Neck is a fragile, fragile creature. And so we want to take these stretches, but with regard and consideration. If the neck feels safe and secure, it can stretch out a little more. And then go ahead, just press your chin into your chest one more time. The back of your head is being pressed down by your palms. And the back of your head is being pushed against your palms in a tiny movement. Take your shoulders up to your ears. So release your hands, take your shoulders up to your ears. And your exhale is dropping them down. Just freeing up the head, the upper back, and the neck. And in between the shoulder blades. It's not just like, oh, a lot more tension got freed up, but suddenly there's clarity, there's malleability, there's basically a little wiggle room. And not just in the musculature, but for your perspective of mind. Before we even begin a meditation, releasing any of the physical areas where there's tension, there's tightness, there's stress, and freeing that up will allow you some greater freedom to feel a little more peaceful and more settled in mind, hopefully. And if you need to pause this and you're like, wow, I really need to stretch out these places, then do that. Sometimes meditation isn't just the practice itself. It's about fostering a connection to more self-awareness to what it is you're doing, how your body's feeling, et cetera, et cetera. I was working with my little boy in his homeschooling stuff this week, and one of the things that I kept saying to him was, it's about you recognizing where you need to fix a letter, or just having that self-awareness to self-correct. That in itself is pretty good. So if you decide like, oh yeah, I need more stretching, then that's your self-awareness saying, here's what it would feel better. I would pause the video or podcast thus far and do some of that. And then giving yourself what you need, you'll be much more receptive and conducive to the rest of this podcast. If you're good to go, then let's begin. You're going to take your 10 fingertips to touch. And 10 fingertips are touching. If you're feeling anxious this morning, or just sort of a lot of racing thoughts, things like that, I would suggest keeping your eyes closed. Sometimes the internal world and how closing your eyes and going more into it can be a little more unsettling. So start with just your eyes open right at your thumb tips. And your eyes aren't wide open, it's more of a soft gaze. So you tuck your chin in a little bit towards your chest, and that way it keeps your neck long. Shoulders are moved back. And just stare right down at your thumb tips touching. And if your mind feels pretty good, pretty relaxed, and able to drop into this, then feel free to close your physical eyes. Feeling your physical thumb tips touching. The benefit to closing your eyes is to bring your attention inward. Take in a breath, please. Open your mouth and let it come through. Draw another breath in, nice and easy, like you're sipping it slowly through a straw. And let that all come through. Thumb tips are touching. Bring your focus over to your index fingers touching. And then part of the meditation we want to drop into is just the feeling your index fingers touching. When our mind trails off, and there's nothing wrong about that. That's just really kind of shining a soft spotlight on how much your mind wanders away from the present moment. And the practice of yoga helps you not just start to reorient yourself or reacquaint yourself to feel you can settle down and be in the present moment, but it's also just fostering an awareness. Am I present? Right now, index fingers are touching. And you'll notice when your mind wanders off, the beauty of this is that your fingertips are the anchor for the mind. They're a place for you to come back home to. So your index fingers touching. When your mind wanders away from home, home of the present moment, home of your physical, actual fingertips, you can just redirect your mind. I need to bring my focus back home to my index fingers touching. And there isn't anything you need to think about, and that can be really the the tricky part. Like, it's simple, but that doesn't always mean it's easy for a busy, restless, wandering mind. But as soon as you notice, oh yeah, I'm over here with my thoughts, you turn your, it's like turning your sailboat around and coming back to your index fingers touching. You know, it's so funny what we struggle with, and when we finally just commit to that, like, so much peace can come from that. Like, there's some part of us that thinks, you know, some of us think, or some days we think, I can't meditate, but there's another part underneath that that's entirely capable. And it can be a little bit difficult to sit in that journey. And that's why it's a practice. Your gaze now falls on your middle fingertips touching, or your eyes are physically closed, and you're redirecting your concentration to your middle fingers touching. It can be very difficult to, you know, it's like we fight the very thing we need. Like, one of the best things I ever learned from a yoga community at Baptiste in Boston is when a teacher in class said, you really don't need to fight where you're just going to end up anyway. Middle fingers are touching. And so you can have struggles with this, but some part of you called you here. And that's a deeper part of ourselves. And that's really what you're doing. You're very slowly, I'm just guiding you out of your usual personality, day-to-day mind, and having you drop into something deeper inside. Middle fingers are touching. You're going to forget, especially if you're new. And then you say to yourself, I just begin again. Middle fingers are touching. The practice is a really beautiful opportunity in the midst of the COVID stay-at-home quarantine to find a little bit more peace inside yourself. Drop your focus now onto third fingers touching. In this meditation, if it gives you just a more settled feeling, if it somehow moves out some of the excess energy, a busy mind, hurried mind, I should be somewhere else mind. This is a practice that can work with those energies. Third fingers are touching. As a yoga teacher, everyone craves a vinyasa flow because it's about movement and the energy is dynamic. And yet I'm not just a yoga teacher, I also can teach and guide meditation. I'm also a Reiki master, practitioner, and healer and teacher. And those are very different energies. Those are energies in this, what's called the subtle body. And if we've had an excess of running around and restlessness and just not being comfortable, just not feeling at ease inside ourselves in a room or in the moment, in the now, present moment, third fingers are still touching. then we want to be anywhere but where we are. Third fingers are still touching. And it can be difficult to devote ourselves and commit ourselves if we've just not been committed. To where we are. But I promise that the part of us that can fight that is the part of us that is also struggling because we can't land. Pinky fingers are touching. Pinky fingers are touching. Right now, I can hear my cat in the background. You probably can too. And yet it's not bothering me whatsoever, which is a sign meditation works. Because you're not fighting what else is coming in. You're just rolling with the flow. If you're feeling more separate from, or you have this idea that meditation should be absolutely quiet, like if I had that idea right now, I wouldn't even be able to upload this podcast. Because I think it has to be absolutely quiet and still and perfect. And yet I constantly keep reminding myself that one of the ways you really know your meditation is working is where you could be in like Grand Central Station. Not now, but before this COVID thing came upon us, to be able to meditate in the middle of Grand Central Station. All that really means is, I used to think, how would that ever be possible? But really what I've learned is that bring your focus to pinky fingers touching. What I've learned about that is if you are centered inside and you feel more safe and secure, then all the external doesn't seem like it's pushing up against you. Sometimes you need quiet, absolutely, especially when you're trying to really start to work with meditation more and things like that. But really, meditation is meeting life where it meets you. And that's not an easy thing. That is the practice in itself, right? Give your focus, your full focus, channel it all the way down into all 10 of your fingertips touching. You don't think, are my fingertips touching? You let yourself feel 10 fingertips touching. You're just letting yourself feel. There's a 10 fingertips, your 10 fingers are already touching, just as mine are. But you have to be out of your head and let yourself have the feel. That can be really difficult in itself to get to, but really that's the sweet spot. Dropping out of your head and just going with the feel. Ten fingertips to touch. Your 10 fingertips will already, you know they're touching because you'll physically feel them. But to physically feel them, there might be heat, there might be pulsating, just a current of energy. You'll just physically feel something. We all have a level of sensitivity to that. But as you fully feel your 10 fingertips touching, it is really a beautiful way to acknowledge, oh, I really have climbed down from the attic of my own mind and all my usual head chatter. And I'm just dropping down into the feel of 10 fingertips touching. And when you know I physically feel them, then you know you're in the now. We're going to hang out in here just a few more moments as a way to strengthen the practice, your practice, for being able to come home and get a little more comfortable with that. So I'm now going to have you're still concentrating. Your mind is taking in all its attention and funneling it down into 10 fingertips touching. And then you're going to feel your seat. You're going to feel your thighs sinking into your chair, your cushion, maybe a bed. You're going to feel your lower body getting more weighted. And as you concentrate on 10 fingertips touching, I'm concentrating from my Reiki. Know how I'm sending your energy down, down, down into your roots, into your legs, into your feet, into your seat. And as you relax more in mind, you'll feel that. You'll feel your lower body somehow just landed or got more anchored. Not nailed down in a way you want to run, but in a way you want to actually, oh, okay, this feels pretty okay. Rooting your energy down, down, down into your feet, into the soles of your feet, into your ankles, into your legs, up your Achilles, up your calves, filling up your shins, your kneecaps, the thighs, the hips, your seat, right into your low back. You want to envision this energy being red, 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 the most vibrant red that comes to your mind, while all 10 fingers are touching. And while all 10 fingers are touching, and you feel your lower body getting really rooted, check in with your own mind, and is there more of a stillness? Is there real quiet? And from that space, drop down into your heart. Do you feel a little more settled there, and yet nothing in your life has changed? And yet there's a shift on the inside of you. Ten fingertips to touch. If you're newer to meditation, welcome. I welcome you, and I am really grateful you checked this out. And if you're used to meditating, my hope is you benefited in a brand new way from even the meditation you did yesterday or last night or whenever. Let this meditation be the practice to bring you back home on the inside of yourself, allowing your mind to feel just a little more settled. When you are settled, you are more stable. When you are settled in your mind and in your heart, you are more stable, mentally and emotionally. When you are connected into your body and your mind, you are truly it's like all 4 cylinders plugged in. You're running on all 4 cylinders, and you are in the now. when your brain isn't so tight-knit and your heart isn't so gripped, and you're at peace with where you are, you can be so much more productive, so much more patient, so much more focused. And your superpower can be in your ability to be relaxed and humble. Your superpower can be in recognizing I don't need to criticize myself if meditation's a struggle, or I just don't want to keep turning on myself. Look at your inner dialogue. If it's peaceful, or if it's really splintering you. Let's use this practice to feel more at home from the inside out. And for just being more at home and more settled and more committed and more devoted to the core parts of our life. Ten fingertips still touching. Draw in a breath. Move it through. Feel your seat. And as you feel your seat, bring your attention to your crown. Opening up your crown just enough. There's nothing you need to do. It's just really a thought. Open up my crown enough to let the light in. Just a gentle, healing light from God. Call it the universe, call it spirit, call it what you will. But you need to be tethered to the physical earth and still need inspiration, guidance, creativity, and softening, humility, self-compassion, your truth. All of those aspects of the divine. So as above, so below. May you feel more at home today. Namaste.